Hey babies. Hey babies. Hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Happy Thursday, everybody. Callow spent the night in the rain at the old stadium to see Metallica. He's pointing if you're watching us on YouTube, or if you're not watching us on YouTube, the show is on YouTube. Sometimes, not every day, most days. He's got a what appears to be Commanders inspired Metallica shirt. Look at that. Very nice.
Yeah, they were very smart with their merch. As you know, I love a marketing machine. Metallica's got that on lock, man. They
Yeah.
had Commanders colored vinyl at the
Oh,
show. Like
smart.
I very smart. Respect the hustle. So by the way, it was like spitting. It was not raining at all during the actual concert. It was great, by the way. So cool. The vibes. It was kind of spooky looking outside. Very great for the show.
When they were at their peak popularity, if you told me that they would be kind of this relevant this many years later, I kind of wouldn't have believed it. Like I always respected them and knew they were really great, but I wouldn't have predicted this, that they could do stadium tours and people would be all over it and they'd have essentially classic music. I really surprised, but they do.
I'm kind of in between with you there. If you would have told me stadium tours, like full blown football stadium tours, that's where I would have been like, I don't know about
Yeah.
that. But that place was pretty sold out last night. Like I don't know what the attendance was. It had to be plus probably 70, 75 plus with the people on the floor. But I would say this, they're like one of the most iconic rock bands, if not, one of the OG American metal bands.
Yes.
And I told you before we got on the air, their last four songs that I saw, of the set list last night were one, iconic, Seek and Destroy, iconic, Master of Puppets, which is one of the best songs ever, and then Enter Sandman, which is also one of the greatest American rock songs of all time. So I think people kind of just know. And if you were like me, my whole thing last night was I just want to go see him once, just to say that I saw Metallica at some point.
Okay.
And I think he actually asked, Hetfield asked at some point, hey, who's here for the first time? I'm going to go with like 50% of the crowd raise their hands. So I think it's a lot of people that hadn't seen them before. And I think that's how good they are. I think that's what I would say.
He could still scream, right? He can still bring it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like this is something that happens with people that are in metal bands. They scream so much early in their career, they blow their vocal cords out and they're never the same. He was fine, man. He was good to go, was hitting all the high notes. Really good crowd work by him too, but that's not shocking for someone that's been around for 40 plus years. But
I ask as someone who play-by-play announcer screams a lot. I wonder what his secret is. I'd like to talk to him about it. If he's watching this, I'd love to talk to you privately about this. I should share the story of last year when I blew my voice out a couple times. It ended up getting into forums with the other play-by-play announcers about what you do about it, and the list of things that they all do to try to protect their voice that I implemented, including a lot of pineapple, blowing bubbles into water with a straw.
Oh.
I got a vocal coach that had me breathing weird and saying weird fricatives all day long to where my kids were like, stop making those noises at us. And it worked, actually. All of it worked. But, he screamed professionally night by night by night. I'd like to hear what his how did he handle his vocal cords throughout his career that he's an old man now still screaming? I wonder how he does it.
If I had to guess, there probably is some, group of people in Hollywood that this is their job.
Yes.
To make sure metal people that did metal and are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s can still scream. I bet you there's a market.
It's got to be.
So I mean, I bet you he's probably got the market cornered on that.
Oh yeah, no, I changed all my routines going into games last year, but I was only doing it once a week. And then I was coming out of it sometimes because of the way they played. I was coming out of it like I had blown my voice out, So anyway, whatever. All right.
I would say this too. I sympathize with you because I think like anything else, it's like a muscle. And if you remember, like I used to only be on the air with you co-hosting for 2 hours a day and then my own hour. And then all of a sudden I went to 1 hour of that and then 2 hours by myself. And I remember after the first like 2 weeks of doing the show by myself, I was like, what the hell is like, I'm so wiped out. What the hell is going on here?
Yes.
But now I'm used to it. Like this is every day for me now. At this point.
What people don't know about this is how exhausting it actually is to do it. And not in a bad way, physically exhausting. Like when you talk for 3 hours straight and you do it with heightened emotions, like in those things, I'm telling you, I walk out of those games, I am exhausted when they're over, like physically, literally exhausted, all in a good way. But doing radio shows is hard. Like for all the people who are like, oh, I can do that. Try it for a week, buddy. Everybody's got one show in them on a Monday. Then you got to come back on Tuesday.
That's the famous.
Everybody's got one in them. Yeah.
The famous Tony line. And I always tell my friends too, because if I'm going somewhere out after the show or whatever, because my show ends at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock every night and I'm out by 6 or whatever, I tell my friends, I go, don't be mad at me if I just kind of zone out for the first half hour we're together. Cause I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I just talked for a couple hours.
Yes. That was me every day. I go home and I'm like, don't talk to me for an hour and then I'll be fine. I need to recharge the battery. And let's not talk about sports for a moment, if possible. All right. Let's see. Yesterday, I was out there in Ashburn. We were in the bubble because it was pouring outside. We got our one look at the OTAs. And so let's just do the news first and get all that stuff out of the way, which was Terry McLaurin was not there. No one has publicly stated it's about a extension, but I would believe that that's what it's about. So I will go with that too. I don't know this. I didn't ask anybody. And unless McLaurin or his agent or the team says something publicly about it, but that's what I just assume that it is. But I just want to qualify. I don't know that that's not why he was there. I just assume that that's why he was not there because it is out of character for him. He's one that likes to be at everything. And I'll just say this up front. Adam Peters has already publicly stated that they're talking to him and want to get a deal done. And McLaurin, we all know, wants to be here, that he doesn't want to be anywhere else. There's no acrimony here. It's just getting a deal done that I think both sides are satisfied with. And I would just describe him, of all people, is the last person I'm worried about. So we're going to talk about a couple others that were not there yesterday that I don't think are over contracts, but we'll talk about them in a minute. With McLaurin, no, I don't love that he's not there. Like, I don't love that he's not there like everybody else. I would prefer him to be there. Am I concerned about him getting behind? No. Am I concerned about him being out of shape? No. Am I concerned about him wanting to be here? No. This is about term and money, and it will be settled. And until I'm told otherwise, I'm literally not concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is always we have to do the pre-talk of like, these are voluntary. They are not mandatory. That's for everybody, not just him.
He did this a couple of years ago too and got the deal that he wanted. Remember Ron tried to do the dumb, we don't want to tell you in the media that we really like him. And we were like, why don't you want to tell us that? Because we really like him.
Right. Yeah. It was just like, this is the one guy you don't hide that from. Like, there's there's no reason for you to do that. What I'll say too is, it was kind of funny, and I don't know how much you want to put into it, but with Jaden Daniels' press conference, when he was asked about Terry, he did say something along the lines of like, I've talked to Terry, and he's got to handle his business, and I kind of was like, that's a little bit of a reveal. Like, if you want to call it business, like, he is looking for the new deal, and I just thought it was funny because Jaden usually wouldn't ever confirm something like that, but he kind of did. If you want to look into what he said, but. Yeah, this is a tale of a couple of different stories, and Terry's the one I'm not concerned about.
No,
whatsoever.
I'm not worried about it. And look, I mean, he proved everything he needed to prove a year ago. I thought this was one of those that was worth watching as of a year ago, where I went, I know what he is. I know what he means. I know what he represents. I also know that he's significantly older than the quarterback. And oftentimes they time this type of stuff up, where they want people who are going to be together long term. So, McLaurin, and it's a new staff and everything. McLaurin's going to have to come in and be the number one. He's going to have to do that. He more than did that a year ago. And he had to be, because they didn't have other options to be a number one on the team. So I think he proved his worth. This ownership group, which includes people like Mitch Rales and Mark Ein, who are from here and love Terry, like everybody loves Terry, right? I'm not concerned about this. If it continues, into towards training camp, I will get concerned about it. But I'm not now. And after Peters, who doesn't say much publicly stated they're talking and they want to get a deal done, I'm not worried about it. This to me is probably all just devil's in the details. They'll get it done. He'll be there. And I'm hoping he's someone who plays his whole career here. I mean, that's typically impossible for most people, but this deal will lead him into his 30s as a wide receiver. And it's very possible, that it will be the last major deal that he gets in his career. And so I'm hoping he's a start to finish Commander, because of all people that we've had over in here, there are a few that stand out as I hope that happens for them. And he's one of them. So I'm just, it's a long way of saying I'm really not worried about this. I know he wants to be here. It's not about that. I know what kind of shape he's going to be in. Like, they just got to get a deal done. And as Jaden put, he's got to handle his business. And that's all that's happening right now.
Yeah. And I almost wonder here too, if they're talking, they both want to do this, it's mutual. I've even made the argument, if you're the Commanders, like, do you go up in the term, just knowing how important this guy is, knowing that the market's going to, settle out what it is? And like, is it a 3-year deal you guys were talking? And does he want a 5-year deal? And you just give him that 5-year deal because you want him in the burgundy and gold for that long. Like, depending on what the money is. I'm not saying like it goes this crazy price in years 4 and 5, but I'm just saying, like, is that something you want to start exploring right now too? Maybe that's
I mean, I don't know. I think the price is what the price is. Like, I've always felt this way. This is where like the Bengals are off to me. Or the Cowboys have been off. The price is what the price is. That's what the market is. He's a number one receiver. That's what number one receivers make. I would assume that his agent is not asking for Jamar Chase's contract. If he is, we have a problem. But if he's not, and he's asking for something that's in the range, well, I mean, this happened last time when he came up. Remember, they thought they were going to get him for a certain number, and then the wide receiver market exploded. And then Ron was a little surprised by all of that, and the number was higher. But the number is what it is with whatever the market is. Terry deserves to be in the class of those players. Is he going to get the biggest contract? No. And I would push back at something like that. He's not going to get Jamar Chase's numbers, not at 25 with the numbers he posts, which are outrageous. Terry's not coming near 2,000 yards a season, right? Like, so like that. We're not talking about that. And as long as he's not talking about that, then I don't think we have a problem here. And I think they're going to land in the right spot. And I'm really just not worried about it. Now, as for these other two, okay, these other two were not there. No one asked specifically of Dan Quinn, are they in the building? Because like they might have been around and just not on the field. This is why I like to be careful about this stuff. They weren't on the field because I was there and did not see them. Have they not been around at all? I don't know that. These are the only this is the only opportunity we had. And unless you ask very specific questions, they don't typically give you that information. Therefore, I don't know how much they have or have not done during this period, but I do know they weren't there yesterday, and it's notable. In Lattimore's case, I do believe that it would be good to know how healthy is he right now? How much would he have participated anyway, right? I'll give you an example. Quan Martin was there yesterday. It's been revealed Quan Martin had surgeries on both of his shoulders, after the season was over, and was playing hurt for the majority of the year, which think about what he did in the playoffs for a minute and consider what was going on there. And often you don't know these things are going on because they don't reveal this stuff until afterwards. Anyway, he was not out there with the quote unquote starters. There was no 11 on 11, but that's obviously because he's recovering from surgery. But he was there. They just didn't throw him out there because why take any kind of risk in the middle of May as he's recovering? Lattimore could have been in the same boat, but we don't know because he wasn't there. And if he was there and he wasn't running out with the corners when the quote unquote starters ran out there, then I would have said he's just not fully recovered. So in his case, I don't know how healthy is he, how much would he have participated. That said, I would prefer him to be there. And I don't think it's about a contract because while he has no guaranteed money left on the deal, and that was actually a plus of the deal that they did with the Saints, in that you can get out of this if you have to. You're not really on the hook for a lot if things don't work out. I don't think he has a leg to stand on if this is about his contract because of the injuries he's had and because of trying to play through them and the performance that occurred at the end of the year. If his people are asking for changes to his contract, I think they're going to fall on deaf ears. But again, I don't know that's what's happening. This very simply could be he's a veteran who doesn't go to voluntary things, even though over the last year in Club DQ, we've gotten used to everybody buying in and being at everything. And the participation was very, very high. So I don't know where we are on this, but on his case, and I'll get to Tunsil in a minute. On his case, I'm willing to hear out a lot of things, including he might have been like Quan and might not have participated that much, albeit that I would have liked to have seen him there with everybody.
Yeah, with Lattimore in his case, I think it's because you can't jump to any one conclusion. Like you just mentioned, it could be health, it could be contract related, it could just be he wasn't there. Once again, I have to reiterate, these are voluntary. Like, these players don't have to show up to these. It's worth saying that every single time. I will say, though, like, Lattimore and his people, if this is about the contract, I'm with you. They don't really have a leg to stand on, mainly because of how he played last year. Like, he didn't do much to warrant, hey, I want more money or more term. I'm with you. I don't think that's the case, but I also don't know what he's thinking.
Correct.
We've seen crazier things happen in the NFL than guys that have underperformed and still decide to hold out the following year. So that's right with you. Like, I don't really know what to think with his side of things, because I don't think he would do that, but I also wouldn't rule it out either. Is like what I'm getting at.
Yes, his situation needs clarification to me.
Yes.
Yeah, his does. Tunsil's does a little bit too, other than I've heard in the past that Laramie Tunsil has not participated in some of the voluntary things. Now, again, in DQ land, everybody's part of the brotherhood and shows up to everything. And we've gotten over, it's only been a year, feels like forever, but only been a year. We've gotten accustomed to that. Like, and I'll get to all the positive things in a moment, because there was a lot that was going on yesterday that I really, really liked. But these things really stand out and they are newsworthy. In Tunsil's case, also like Lattimore, there was something he said after he was acquired from Houston. He's got a couple years left on his contract too. And he was asked when he did a Zoom with all the reporters about his contract. And the only thing he said about it was, the front office knows how I feel about it. Okay. And didn't go any further than that. And when Adam Peters was asked about him, he also just kind of said, we have a really good player here. It didn't go into it. And in his case, does he actually want an adjustment on his contract? Again, I don't know. This very easily could be he's a veteran who doesn't show up to some of this stuff, hasn't in the past, and he's just kind of not doing it again. And it stands out because of the participation level of the rest of the team and the culture and the brotherhood and all that stuff that they keep talking about. So when someone's not there, it's kind of like, why aren't you there? Everybody else is there. And in his case, again, I don't know if this has anything to do with his contract or not, or if it's just a veteran who in the past hasn't showed up and isn't showing up either. So again, without the specificity of it, it's hard for me to know in those two cases what this is all about. I don't think Lattimore has a leg to stand on if he's asking for a contractual adjustment. However, I don't know that he is. And in Tunsil's case, he might be or he might not, but I'm going to need clarification. All in all, I wish these guys were here, but I understand. And I thought Dan Quinn put this really well yesterday. He goes, because he was asked, this is a trap question. When people ask, like, don't you want people here? You know, the stock answer is yes, we want everybody here, but it's voluntary. His answer was, this is not a one size fits all situation, meaning I'm open to individual things that are going on. And I think he meant Terry more than anything, which is kind of like, I know he's doing his business. We'll figure that out. I'm not worried about him. I don't think he was talking about these other two, but he kind of passed it off as, we don't have a hard and fast rule for everybody. So I know this is a long way of saying I'm not really sure why these guys weren't there. And it could be very simply they're veterans who didn't have to show up and chose not to. And maybe there's some other things that are going on, but that's where I am on all of it.
I think with Tunsil, you know, you could use that, because I heard that answer too when I listened to the press conference yesterday. Tunsil, I think you could put under there because he's a vet. He's basically a future Hall of Fame left tackle with the way that he's played. How much do offensive linemen get work in these OTA workouts? You know, like, it's not like they're in pads or they're working out that hard. I heard Tunsil in that answer too, is all I'm saying on that one.
Yeah.
Just because he is a veteran, he is a lineman. The linemen don't get that much work for this thing. Doesn't surprise me that, like, it wouldn't surprise me if he was under that, you know, umbrella as well.
Okay. Now, as of things that were going on and that we saw, one, Debo looks great. Okay. Number one. Now, I don't know what this is such weird things to say, but like, I haven't been around him, you know, everyone else I can tell you. And I'll give you an example. Frankie Louvu looked in unbelievable shape yesterday for this time of year. Jordan McGee looked in terrific shape for this time of year. all in all, the majority of the team looked like they had hit the weight room and done all these things and had been in really good shape. So really, really good sign. And I know that one of the things going out the door, like some of the San Francisco whispering, they tried to turn him into Luka Doncic all of a sudden, like he's out of shape all the time. They tried to Luka him and basically say, if you don't watch him, he eats too many Cheetos all the time. Like that's what they're like basically saying about him. And then he's made a point of posting a bunch of videos about himself working out. He did do a group session yesterday. He talked about he's working out every day, that all this is really important to him. And I would just say this on first glance, but like, I know what Luvu looks like. I was staring at him for a year. I don't know what Debo typically looks like when he's in prime shape. He looked pretty good to me. He was moving fluidly. And unlike some of these other veterans who were not here, he showed up, and was part of all of this. And I think that was really important. So it was good to see him out there yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't see anyone talk about him. So, I mean, that's good that, you're providing that. Because I did want to see, what was some of the other stuff that was going on yesterday? Besides, I'm sure you'll get to B-Mitch in just a sec. But other than that, like, I didn't see too much of what else was going on with how some of these guys were looking. By the way, like, Jaden being asked about, his workout thing and him just rushing it off was like the funniest thing I think of the day. Yeah. He's just like, I don't know. I'm working out, man. Like very, very kawaii is kind of how I put it. Like he was just not wanting to talk about how his offseason went at all.
Well, okay. So when we talk about, like, I'm telling you what I see and looking at these guys, I was very interested, as everybody else was, because of this picture that came out last week where he looked like he was jacked. And that's kind of not him. He's very thin. And when we got there, it became evident very quickly that picture was somewhat of an optical illusion. And they just caught him when he was flexing a little bit. And they put this out there. Kime told me this story yesterday. He was like, a few years ago, there was like a picture that was put out by the team of Jeremy Reeves, and he looked like, just like looked really jacked up. And everybody went to see him and was like, what have you been doing to work out? He's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then they showed him the picture, and he was like, I don't know, man. Like they caught me in some angle where it just kind of looked that way. So Jaden laughed it off. Everybody laughed it off. And I will tell you, like, in looking at him, he doesn't look like that different than he did. He's not Arnold Schwarzenegger now. So I hate to break it to you, but he looks like himself if you were expecting Mr. Universe to walk out there playing quarterback. Now, I will say this about him, and I got to tell you, this was notable because I didn't see a lot of it last year. I talked a lot about like where you kind of knew things were going beyond the right way because he never had a bad practice, Right. He never looked like a rookie, never sounded like a rookie, never looked like a rookie. And on the practice field, you'd watch and you'd be like, when is this guy going to have a bad day? And he never really did. He didn't have a bad day yesterday because it's all 7-on-7 and all this stuff. But I will tell you, it was totally notable. He missed a few throws that I was surprised to see. Now, it's May, so I don't want to make any kind of big deal out of it. And really, the storyline of this was silly. How many people were asked about what his body looks like, how he had to laugh it off, and how everybody was just kind of like, now that you've seen him, why are you asking me this? Like, he's not on HGH. Like, what do you like? He doesn't look like Barry Bonds. Like, what do you think is going on here?
Yeah, no, that's what I thought was kind of funny about the whole thing. And I think even what I liked actually was Cliff downplayed it. He was like, he's like, okay, he's like, maybe he put on a little weight, but do you see his frame? He's still a pretty like thin guy and a tall guy. Like I like how Cliff kind of was like, sure, but he's still Jaden. Like he's not going to change that composition of himself of just being a really tall and kind of lanky individual, I guess is like what he was alluding to there too. So yeah, I mean that being one of the storylines, I'm not surprised at though, because like that's what everyone wants to latch onto is the quarterback and how they look different and how they're in the best shape of their life in May. So yeah.
My favorite Cliff line yesterday was so on brand. He was like, I'm excited for the Madrid game. I'm a Euro guy.
Yes, dude. Yep. That was
yes. On the nose, Cliff. Yep, perfect.
That was the first time we've gotten a like past Cliff brought to present Cliff
Oh,
moment,
yeah.
and I was like, yes, you do exist somewhere in that
Yeah.
body. Like previous Cliff is still there.
You are finding yourself again. You are telling us who you are. We appreciate that. You know we love you too. We like that you're sharing now. We appreciated that.
Yeah, I was like,
right.
leave it to May for Cliff to like let the door creep open just a touch so we figure out who he is a little bit.
He was very guarded last year about everything. And then all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I'm a Euro guy. You guys can know it. We're like, yep,
yes,
I knew it.
Yes.
I knew it. All right. Of the things on the field that really, really stood out, you know, I'm very big on first impressions. And I think I got one yesterday. And again, it's not a lot of contact and they're all in shorts and it's kind of glorified walkthrough and it's a lot of drills. And so I don't want to go too far about any of this stuff, but I said this actually after the rookie camp when I got to see him too. The second round pick, Trey Amos, beyond looks the part. So again, it's 7-on-7. Think about the receiving core this team has. It's very deep in terms of veterans. So when he's thrown out there, it's not against rookies. It's against Michael Gallup or KJ Osborne or Deebo Samuel or others that have Noah Brown, been around the block a long time. And again, it's just 7-on-7 stuff. He jumped the route and jumped Michael Gallup and got a pick. Okay. Anytime you see a corner do that, you go, okay, all right. Like this is like, be still my heart, everybody, because this is what we're looking for. And on the very next play, jumped another route and should have had a second pick and had an incompletion. And then later had another one where he's just around the ball. So when it just, I know it's just first impressions, it's just a practice, but he really, really stood out to me. There is, if Marshawn Lattimore is healthy, I'm not sure that he's going to end up starting. But I think if he's going to do this regularly, he's going to find his way on the field very, very quickly, because when they talk ball is life, all you got to do is take one look at this guy, look, feel, very fluid, smooth movement. And then when his hands are on the ball, he's catching it. He'll be playing soon. So that was my really, really good, don't want to get out of whack expectations, but really good first impression was him yesterday. He looked great.
I mean, that would also be in line with what they wanted, right? For the second time, they could have traded down. They didn't because they had so much faith in what he was ranked on their board. I'm just saying that falls in line with what we heard, that they liked him as a first-round talent, essentially, on where they drafted. And if that's the case, he should kind of look like that. So that's good to hear.
That was good. And the other one, too, that's just notable, and again, you're just getting glimpses of things. Remember, Lattimore wasn't there. So it was Jonathan Jones and Noah Igbenogany that actually went out as the outside corners, okay, to start just in the 7-on-7 stuff. And Mike Sanders still was in the slot. So here's Lattimore not here, and Sanders still's in the slot. It's a glimpse of this is where he's going. This is where he's going to be unless we need him because of injuries to go somewhere else. So I think that was my first glimpse of, okay, not that I didn't know this, but like they're basically telling you, this is your position. This is where you're going to be. And this is where they think he's going to shine. And let me tell you something. If day one is what we're going to see from Amos regularly, he's going to be starting for this team quickly. Like and on the outside where they intended him to be. It's going to happen quickly. He moves like a veteran corner. He is quick and he's jumping routes and catching the ball. This guy could be a stud for this team off of what I saw yesterday.
I mean, that would be, a nice feather in their cap, especially with what we know, what the defensive line could look like. You're going to need some extra help back there, period. So, I mean, that's exactly what they're rooting for. Like, you can revamp other parts of the defense on the part that you didn't. So hopefully that's the case.
Okay, last thing, and I'm going to actually spend more time on this tomorrow because I really felt like one of the big things I wanted to hear from them was expectations, newfound expectations off of the season they had, the schedule they've been given. Hard Knocks is coming in here. Everybody's, blowing a lot of smoke up there. You know what? They're the darlings of the NFL. You got to handle this. And I'm going to talk a lot more about it tomorrow, but I did want to bring up what I thought was the best line of the day, which was Dan Quinn stopping Scott Abraham in the middle of a question where he was basically just saying, you were the hunters, now you're the hunted. And he stopped him. And he said, I know where you're going with this. We are the hunters always. I don't care if we win the Super Bowl. We are the hunters always. It was the second time. Quinn is very good at tone setting. Like he would come in on every press conference with, this is what this day's about. This is what we're going to talk about. This is what we worked on. And if you got in the way of whatever narrative, he was actually very good at kind of shifting the focus to what the tone should be set as. And it happened twice yesterday. At OTAs, which are voluntary, yes, we want everybody here, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. You're not going to trap me into going, well, if someone's not here, they're the enemy now. We're not going to do that. And second, I want to say this loudly and clearly to all of you. We still have things to prove. We're not being hunted yet. We're still the hunters. There's a level for us to go. I hope Motran is listening to this because I really want We Are the Hunters burgundy and gold t-shirts made. Please, I would like those. And I loved that line. He just stopped them and said, we're never the hunted. We're the hunters always.
Yeah, I in particularly just liked that you and I have listened to Scott Abraham ask questions over the years. We usually know where he's going within the first 2 seconds. And the fact that Quinn even knew was like, I'm going to stop you right there. And I was like, yes, Dan, like, yes, like I know exactly what he's going to say too. And that was like one of my favorite things, which means he knows the local media well enough that he's like, I'm not walking into that trap. And I'm with you. That was a good point of, hey, I also know this is the last question and it's going to be the last thing that I talk about, which means it's going to be what everyone talks about the most. There was also, I think, a little bit of a thought process behind there too of like, okay, if I'm going to pick my spot, it's going to be here. And to make sure and tell you, this is what the tone is right now.
Yes, it was a point of emphasis that I really appreciated. Like, this is what I've wanted to hear. How are they going to approach this? You have to acknowledge, don't put your head in the sand. This is different. The NFL is saying it's different. Everybody is saying it's different. They're profiling you differently. And off of what you did, it should be different. How are you going to back up a 12-win season and be profiled the way you're being profiled with the quarterback that everyone says is the next best thing? Like, you got to handle that. It is a real deal issue. You cannot put your head in the sand and pretend it isn't. And I love the way he handled it so far. So I did like that. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. A couple other NFL things I want to get into. One, I have seen the video of Stephon Diggs on a boat with multiple women, and then he pulls out something that's got pink substances in it. A plastic bag with a pink substance. Now, as someone who still believes in accuracy, we don't know what it is, correct? No one knows what it is?
Correct. Technically, we do not know what it is.
Okay. I don't want to accuse him of anything. If I don't know what it is, it could be Fun Dip. I assume it's not, right? Okay.
When's the last time you saw Fun Dip in a store in a clear bag, Bram? Come on.
That's right. Well, maybe that's where he puts the Fun Dip. I don't know. That could be Kool-Aid mix. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Technically, it could be any of these things. If you're in a court of law, you could say it's anything. As long as you know it, okay.
Now, you are stretching yourself into a pretzel over there.
We all assume, I'm not going to accuse him of something if I don't know what it is. We all assume it's something else. I went on with Scott Jackson on his show in Virginia Beach. The whole segment before was him saying Pink Molly over and over and over and over. And then the first thing I said to him was, I don't know what that is. Maybe back in the day I would. Maybe I'm an old man now, and I'm glad I don't. So don't even bother asking me what is Pink Molly if that's what that is. I will say this, it doesn't look good. It looks bad. I don't care that he's on a boat with women. I hope that people are not so caught up in that part of it. It's the package he pulled out. And I'm going to assume the NFL is going to drug test him very soon to find out what's going on, because how can they not, right? How can they not? And then we'll see what Vrabel and the Patriots do about it. He just got there. So, of all the things that we're talking about with where's Lattimore, where's Tunsil, I haven't seen a video of them on a boat with a bunch of women and a pink substance in a bag. So, they got something to deal with here. It's the first hiccup for them in their, quote unquote reboot where they're favored in a lot of the games that they have this year. And they've got these high hopes for the new coach and this young quarterback. And all of a sudden, rejuvenated, expectations for them is a bad spot for them to be in here in May.
You do have to fact check me on this. I'm pretty sure his girlfriend is Cardi B, right? And I think that she's on the boat apparently too. So I'm just saying the optics there don't look great either. I'm just throwing that out there. I actually, if I'm going to defend him, and I'm not really trying to defend him here was actually my argument about the whole thing. If you lip read, he literally says to, or it looks like allegedly says to one of the women, go have fun and then come back here and talk to me, something along those lines. So I'm just saying he is just handing them whatever is in that bag too, not that he's necessarily using it. That's the argument that I would use. Either way, optics are not great of something that just got there. And honestly, I want to go this route too. For an organization that used to be so very high-strung, tightly wound, a well-oiled machine, none of this stuff ever got out. Mike Vrabel, you got a fun one 2 months into your job, dude, of the new wide receiver, the only good wide receiver that you have. That's what you're dealing with at the end of May. Have fun with that one.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not one to accuse anybody of anything, but I'm pretty sure I know what that is. So, and I don't know what it is. I just know it's not good. That's
right.
All I know. That's what I know. That's not good. Fortunately, it wasn't labeled, so I don't know exactly what it is. All right. The other one that happened yesterday was this. Caleb Williams does a press conference at their OTAs to try to set the record straight and say, I really, really, really want to be here. I want you to understand that I want to be here. Yes, I met with Kevin O'Connell before the draft. Yes, I liked him and liked their system and all that stuff. I knew they weren't picking me. The Bears, if they were going to trade this pick, was not going to be to not to a division rival, even if they didn't think he'd be great, they can't do that because what if he is? Then it's the worst trade you've ever made in your life because you gave him to a division rival. That's the in-division tax. You cannot trade that pick to that team unless you know that this guy's going to be a failure. Then it's because it will get you all fired forever for doing something like that. So I'm willing to write off that part. He met Kevin O'Connell before the draft and he liked him. So what? You clicked with some people. It's all the other quotes, and it was mainly from his father. And in this book that's coming out from Seth Wickersham that insinuated it wasn't just that he wanted to go to Minnesota. He just didn't want to go to Chicago because he was worried that he was going to be part of the quarterback graveyard that they have had forever. And he went out of his way to try to set that record straight. He's got no choice. I am sure he got PR'd up big time before he did this. And I thought from what I saw, he answered all the questions. I'm hoping they're going to let him put this behind him. The fallout of it is one of those things that's going to follow you. So you bet from here forward, you better profess love for them because it does feel like you cheated on them early and that you made it sound like you never really wanted to be with them in the first place. And that's not the basis of a long-loving relationship. So he's going to have to profess love for Chicago and the Bears organization from here forward and not have a slip up there and not mess up if the season doesn't go the way they want it to go. But I did think he did as good a job as he can do. He's a little awkward in these moments, and it's not a criticism of him. It's just kind of his personality. He doesn't come off as really straightforward, and there's some quirkiness to him, to his personality. So I don't know how it's playing there. I wonder how it's playing there, but I did think he did as good a job as he could do to put to bed that he does actually want to be there. The question is whether it's believable in Chicago right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Flames are fanned at this point. They've been turned down a little bit. I don't think it kind of changes how I think the city's going to perceive him if it doesn't work out this year, though. I've said this. I know it's not a make or break year 2. Like they're not going to cut him probably after year 2 unless it's
No way.
disastrous.
No.
Unless it's like an absolute disaster or
It'd
something.
have to be a disaster.
Yeah, he gets the yips.
Because they've got Ben Johnson there now. So if they had a disaster, they're going to blame him and go, it's not this coach. Look what he's done in the past, right?
Unless we're getting to Carson Wentz can't make a screen throw type bad.
Right.
I think like he's going to be fine after this year in terms of having a leash. But I'll say, I still think the tone, you can't dial back what you said there. The tone this year is going to be, if he doesn't perform, that city's going to turn on him faster than they
I think so too.
Because look at everything that's there. They have all the offensive weapons they've added for 2 years. They revamped the offensive line. The defense is pretty good. As you just mentioned, Ben Johnson is on board now, wonderkind offensive genius. Like his excuses end this year. Like it's crazy that in year 2, you tell a quarterback that he has none, but it's true. He doesn't have any excuses anymore.
Well, here's the other nightmare for them. What if Jaden, May, Penix, McCarthy, and Nix are all in the playoffs?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Think about that for a second. How far-fetched is that? Right. Jaden in the playoffs, Minnesota in the playoffs, the Broncos in the playoffs. Atlanta was that close and just bulked up their defense, and they're in a weak division in the playoffs. And if everybody's right about New England and they're basically the second best team in their division, maybe they're playing for a wild card. Like that's actually not even really all that preposterous that could happen. They've got the toughest road, like with Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota. They got the toughest road to get out of that division and make the playoffs out of it. What if that's what the end scenario is? I agree with you. If he gets the yips like Wentz, that's where it goes sideways. If he's good, maybe not great, team is still trying to figure it out, I think they'll get through it. But it's going to be very important for him to reiterate over it. Never forget this. You must profess love to these people because they're always going to be just a little bit nervous about how you really feel about them. And so we'll see. The other thing that popped up was, did you see Ben Johnson talk about body language? Did you see that one?
I didn't see that.
He admitted he had a meeting with Caleb and others to stop the bad body language. Like, don't put your palms up to the air when something goes wrong. Don't look like you're not focused on the next play and focused on the last play, which I think is a shot at him too, which is you need to show the confidence in what we're doing. Obviously, not everything's going to go right, but it's the next play. We're good. Let's get better instead of, oh God, here we go again. And it's, again, like that's a setup for, okay, did you want to be here? Did you not want to be here? I don't know. Do you like being here? Because you act like you don't sometimes when you act this way in games. They're asking for a personality change in him. And it's going to be interesting and fascinating to watch to see if it happens.
What I'll say on that, too, is he's right, mainly because when things are going bad, it's really funny in today's day and age how, like, with phones, you would think these guys are a little more attuned to just knowing that they're being watched at all times.
Yeah.
But it's not a phone camera. Fox has a camera pointed at you the whole entire game. And so, like, that's what I think I'm getting at here with Ben Johnson. I think he's going, guys, no matter how the game's going, I need you to realize that, like, you are basically in front of everybody like you're at a podium because they're going to watch everything you do. Because what really happens, too, it's when a team is bad, they really start honing in on that stuff. It's not when you're winning. It's when you're bad. And then all of a sudden, everyone's going, look at this body language. Then you're on First Take, and they're talking about how you shrugged your shoulders for 20 minutes because of a certain way. So I actually don't blame them for at least bringing that to those guys' attention because it does become a storyline at some point.
It does. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram, watch the show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, well, we have just a couple of quick moments here. Thunder on to the NBA Finals. They rout Minnesota in yet another, God, these playoffs suck this year moment that in an elimination game, one of the teams didn't show up. It was 41-15 in the second quarter. This has happened over and over and over where even a decent series ends up ending with a thud. The Nuggets series with OKC ended with a total thud, even though it got to game 7. I'm hoping we get some a decent finish to the Knicks Pacers series. I think we will, but this has been just, I don't know. Disappointing is the wrong word. It's kind of like almost predictable with all the heat that the NBA has gotten this whole year about how the game is played, whether the players care that much, especially in the regular season. Here we are in the playoffs, and you're watching poor fundamentals, teams getting blown out, and teams no showing when their season's on the line. Like, they got to have, it's time for a giant intervention after all of this is over for this league, where everybody needs to sit down, talk it out, and talk about what competition looks like again. Because I'm telling you, it's kind of going out the window. Here's another example of this. Western Conference Finals, your season's on the line and no show? Like, come on. Like, what's going on?
Well, I think what's also happening, though, is like you're getting teams like the Thunder who actually play defense really hard, and it's making everyone else look bad, too. Like, it's making it look even worse than it normally does. I think that's what's happening here as well, is like we're so used to the offensive nature of the NBA that now when these defensive teams actually do what they want to do, we're seeing some results. And like what I actually hated about the narrative of this series that just ended was you had Stephen A. Smith going on First Take yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it was, coming after Ant, just being like, oh, if you're the stud that, you're supposed to be, you should be playing better. And I was like, dude, you guys were the ones calling him the second coming of MJ last, postseason, or 2 postseasons ago. You can't have it both ways here when you have a really good team that's good defensively playing them tough either. So I think that's where there's a little bit of a reckoning here of just maybe these games are just being played a little bit different and some teams don't know how to counteract it.
I saw Chuck push back at that hard, saying like the face of the league are the people who take it, not the people you anoint it to.
That's right.
He's like the face of the league is Shea now or Jokic or the people who've won recently.
Right.
Like those are, so stop telling me it's somebody else when they don't win. And you know what? Like I read this one piece too that was just kind of ripping ESPN's coverage. And I remember earlier this year where LeBron got into it with them about, like it's the coverage that's actually hurting the game. In these cases, I go, you know what? He's not that far off. That said, you all are responsible for the competitiveness of your league. Sure. It has nothing to do with anything anybody says on TV. And that's your fault. Like when all these elimination games are boring no-shows by teams that spent an entire season getting into this position and kind of doing it by default because nobody's trying that hard in the regular season, that's on you, guy. So don't sit here and blame narratives for that. That said, sometimes two things can be true at once. These narratives are also off, and I could understand where they're annoying for them to have to deal with. I am hoping this weekend we get a better result out of Indiana, New York, because that series has actually been very good. It's been the one really good series, and I'm hoping the Knicks win Game 5 so we get a Game 6, so we get the pressure of a Game 6. I would like to see that. And then lastly, in hockey, good God, like the Panthers just hit a stride here in the middle of that Toronto series, and they're whooping people. And last night, they just came back from 2-0 like it was nothing on the road. They're whooping people. I'm assuming they're going to get a rematch with the Oilers because they're kind of streaking right now, too. One way or the other, that's going to come to an end. I think it'll be a very good Stanley Cup final. But, man, it is hard not to look at them and go, it's hard to have a juggernaut in hockey, but they look like they got it. Like it is, they have hit full steam ahead over the last series and a half or so.
No, I mean, you also look at them, it's their third straight Stanley Cup appearance. That's crazy when you think about modern times, let alone what they did at the deadline. I said to you, the second they traded for Brad Marchand, I went, they already are so stacked. That's going to be a perfect move for them. It has been perfect for them. He's been great on the ice for them. I told you when this started, when we got to the conference finals that they were going to repeat. I believe in that. I believe they're going to repeat. I think if they do play Edmonton, which that's what it looks like, that's going to be a longer series, but I still think they come out with this one. And I will say this, Carolina, they've got some soul searching to do. Can you keep running it back with Rod Brind'Amour and this crew? It's the same thing we used to talk about with Ovechkin, but there's only one common denominator, and you can only win one game in the conference finals in 3 appearances. That's kind of crazy. I'm just saying you gotta look at some things, I think, if you're Carolina.
Well, their first 2 series, they outclassed those teams pretty bad, including the Caps. So I wouldn't be, I don't know. The other thing too, it's just wild. If Florida wins the Cup, it'll be 4 of the last 6 years a team from Florida has won the Stanley Cup, and nearly would be 5 of the last 6 years. That's pretty unbelievable.
With Florida, it's my favorite thing to talk about too, and why baseball needs to look at what the NHL did. Florida is a direct result of the salary cap floor being implemented. The Panthers used to just take on bad contracts and not sign anybody and not compete at all. The NHL put in a salary cap floor, and they decided, well, crap, if we have to start spending money, we might as well try to start winning. And it took them about a decade for it to happen, to be competitive. Here they are. They're about to go to their third. They're in their third Stanley Cup. They are about to win their second. That tells me everything I need to know about how a salary cap floor will help all sports.
All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Bram, what's the show? ESPN 630, the Sports Cap.